Ladies and gents, this is Image Fight for the NES. Developed by Irem, the same company who was also responsible for the classic shoot-'em-up series, R-Type. Image Fight for the NES. This is a port which is based on the arcade version of the same name. The arcade version was released 2 years before eventually this game being ported onto the NES. Now, there were other ports of the games too. There was a TurboGrafx 16 port, which was only available in Japan. And there was also an X68000 port, which I believe that port was pretty much arcade perfect, so to speak. Without further ado, let's go ahead and see how the NES port of this game holds up. Let's pop this sucker into the good old NES and see how it holds up today.
To tell you the truth, if it's an NES game and if it doesn't tell you the backstory, and on top if it's a shoot 'em up, there's no purpose of me commenting on it. According to the instruction manual that was listed in Wikipedia, the setting takes place sometime in the 21st century. The Earth's moon was exploded into 4 large fragments and a multitude of meteors. Aliens from afar had succeeded in destroying the West Moon's base. One after another, mankind's other military industrial space complexes were being lost. What mankind dreaded had come to pass. Scores of unidentified fighters were in the area. In addition, the moon's main computer, still intact after the explosion, had strange vegetation coiled around it. Their trademark evil exploits being a dead giveaway. Invaders from the boondoggle galaxy had arrived to take over the Earth. To counter these evil forces, leading scientists from all over the globe created the OF-1 fighter ship. Combat pilots depart the Earth to fend off the invaders and earn everlasting glory. So yeah, the story in Image Fight is something I could completely care less about. Like most shoot-'em-ups, Image Fight, without a doubt, has power-ups you can obtain. It is worth mentioning that its weapons system also has a quote-unquote side option. This is quite similar to the weapon system in R-Type if we examine it. However, its side option weapons have 2 different variations. If you happen to get the blue option, you can only shoot straight. However, if you acquire the red one, you can shoot in multiple directions. With the weapon options that are tagged along on your ship, you can fire it only forwards by pressing the B and A buttons at the same time. I believe in the arcade version of the game, there was an extra button that you can press for unleashing the option shot. From stage 1 to stage 5, you have to fight your way through an onslaught of enemies that comes towards you. At times, this part of the game will seem a bit easy, but it's not, because it's pretty challenging. However, we can be thankful that it's never frustrating if you know what you're doing in this game. Especially if you're playing games such as The Last Starfighter for the NES, which was nothing but an extremely watered down port of Uridium for the Commodore 64. If you crash and burn in this game, then that is your problem. Boss battles can be a bit frantic if you ask me, though I do feel that the bosses in stage 3 and stage 5 has to be dealt with in terms of trial and error. Why do I say this, you may ask? After the incoming asteroids in stage 3, the boss starts to form, and then an array of lasers are being shot at you. So if you're fending this boss off for the first time, you would most likely die here 9 times out of 10. Why? Because his attack pattern can be confusing to you at first confrontation. As far as the boss in stage 5, he comes closer to you, and you would think that he would be taken out once you shoot directly at him. But no. What will you have to do is this. Wait until his claws open up, and after he is somewhat on the bottom of the screen, and then attack his face with the flames coming out of the boosters of your ship. And of course, watch out for his projectiles. If you run into them, you will indeed die. After you complete a stage, you are given a results screen, in which I do feel that it reminds me as if I'm taking some sort of test in school or something. Why is that? Because it will tally up your shot down accuracy. After you complete all 5 stages, if you're in the range of, I believe it's around 80 to 100%, you have passed and you are entitled to being in the quote-unquote real fight, which is the final 3 stages of the game. However, if it's anything below 80 at the end of the image fight run, which is the first 5 stages, then you have failed. However, I believe that regardless if you have passed or failed the image fight, then the end of the game would possibly result in the same outcome. If there is a mistake I have made on this, whoever is out there watching this review, I'll be glad that you would correct me on that. Thanks. In the beginning of the game, on the first stage, things start to look pretty good for the most part. But on some stages of the game, the graphics are kinda bland. The question I have is this: am I not mistaken? Wasn't the NES more capable of having more detailed graphics? Xanac for the NES had better graphic detail. Then that game was released 3 years before this game. But nevertheless, as a devout gamer who plays the NES, I actually like the graphics here. Now, some of you all who are watching this review might be saying, KT, it's a NES game, what do you expect? The graphics of a NES game is all dull and whatnot. Whoever says that is a asshole, and they don't know jack shit about video games. Play your shitty Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto, and Madden, you mindless fucking douchebags.
If I offended anyone by saying that, then you can sue me. But let it be known, you don't mess with Kid Thunder.
When you first start the game, it will immediately take you to the title screen after its 3-second fade in. However, upon starting the game, there is no intro sequence. In the Famicom version, it happened to have the intro sequence when the ship is placed in its launching area, just like how it was in the arcade version. However, with many arcade to home conversion ports, its arcade counterpart is generally more dynamic. But there are some cool things in which I do happen to see here, as it was seen in its arcade counterpart. Once you pass the image fight after stage 5, when the screen says this is not a drill, real fight, you will see the 3 ships blasting off in this port, just as the way you've seen it in the arcade version. Also, the ending of this game wasn't even cut when this game got ported over to the NES from the arcade. I really have to talk a lot about the sound font in the NES version of the image fight. The music in some of the stages may not be that great, but honestly, I have to say the music in the final stage of this game kicks so much ass. However, there are a few problems in terms of how the sound was ported, but it's never to the point where it's a major issue. But needless to say, I actually like the NES version soundtrack. Image Fight for the NES is great despite some of the minor issues that occurs in this port. It may get a little frantic at certain points of the game, and the frustration factor is at least down to a complete minimum if you ask me. I recommend that you should get this game since it's pretty cheap on the market, somewhere around $3 I believe, and indeed, give this game a try. As of now, this is Kid Thunder signing off. Take care, stay tuned for future videos, and I'll see you around sometime.